Today, we're going to dive into the life of a truly revolutionary figure from 15th century India. We're talking about a man born into the absolute lowest rung of society who rose to become a spiritual guide for millions. His words challenged an empire, and his vision of equality, well, it continues to inspire people to this very day. Let's get into the incredible story of Guru Ravidas.
You know, this single line, it just gets right to the heart of Guru Ravidas' entire life and mission. He saw the rigid caste system not as some kind of divine plan, but as a sickness, a disease that was corrupting the very soul of society. And look, this wasn't just some abstract philosophical idea for him. It was the suffocating reality he lived with every single day, and it was the foundation of the world he was absolutely determined to change.
So who was this man who dared to speak such a radical truth in his time? To really understand the power behind his words, we first have to picture the world he was born into, a world that was basically designed to keep him and millions of people like him completely silent and invisible. Okay, this table here really lays out the massive obstacles he was up against from day one. He was born in the 15th century, near the holy city of Varanasi, into what's known as the Chamar community. His family were leather workers, a job that the upper caste considered ritually impure. And that single fact put them into the social category of untouchables. That label wasn't just a word, it was a cage. It meant facing constant humiliation, being denied entry into temples, forbidden from using the same wells, and being forced to live separately from everyone else. This context is so important because it's from this exact position of being pushed to the very edges of society that he would create a philosophy of universal human dignity.
But instead of just accepting this brutal social order, Guru Ravidas challenged its very core through his spiritual teachings. He wasn't a warrior with a sword or a king with an army. His weapons were his poetry, his reason, and a completely radical way of thinking about faith itself.
At the heart of it all was something called Nirguna Bhakti. Now let's break that down. Nirguna means without form, and Bhakti means devotion. He taught that God isn't some distant king on a throne, but a formless, universal energy that is present in everyone and everything. Now you gotta understand, this simple idea was like a theological atom bomb. Because if God is in everyone equally, then how can one person be pure and another impure just because of their birth? The whole logic of the caste system just collapses. His teaching meant you didn't need some expensive ritual or a priest to connect with the divine. All you needed was a pure heart. Suddenly, spirituality was for everyone.
And this just brilliantly illustrates his social vision. See, he didn't just criticize the world, he offered this incredible vision of what it could be. He called it Begampura, which literally means the city without sorrow. In his poems, he described this ideal place as having no second or third-class citizens, no cruel taxes, no anxiety, no injustice. It's a society where everyone lives in freedom and dignity. For the people of his time living under constant oppression, this was an absolutely electrifying idea. I mean, you can draw a straight line from this 15th century vision to our modern ideals of social justice and human rights. He was imagining a utopia centuries before the word was even popular in the West.
This is probably his most famous saying, and it just perfectly wraps up his entire philosophy in one beautiful line. The holy river Ganga, the Ganges, was a huge pilgrimage site. The belief was, you go bathe in its waters, and it cleanses you of sin. But Ravidas completely flips this idea on its head. He says, why travel? If your heart is pure, then the most sacred water in the universe is right there in your Kathauti, that humble little bowl he used for soaking leather, the very symbol of his impure job. He was saying true holiness isn't in a river or a temple, it's inside you.
Now, as you can probably imagine, a message this revolutionary was bound to cause a stir. It was a direct challenge to the two most powerful forces of his time, the religious gatekeepers who thought they controlled access to God, and the political rulers who controlled, well, everything else.
He was basically fighting a war on two fronts. On one side, he had the orthodox Brahmins, and they were infuriated. I mean, here was this man they called Untouchable, not only writing this beautiful spiritual poetry, but attracting followers from all castes, including their own. His very existence as a teacher threatened their entire monopoly on religion, and on the other side, his growing influence was making political rulers pretty nervous. Any leader who could unite and empower the marginalized was always seen as a potential threat.
This brings us to one of the most famous stories about him, a legend that really shows his spiritual power. So the story goes, a Brahmin is on his way to the Ganga and stops by, kind of condescendingly asking Ravidas for an offering. Ravidas gives him a small coin, but with a catch. Give it to the goddess Ganga only if she takes it with her own hand. The Brahmin just scoffs.
But at the river, to his total shock, a divine hand actually emerges from the water, takes the coin, and gives back a golden bangle. The Brahmin, overcome with greed, gives the bangle to the king. The queen, of course, loves it and demands the matching one. Now the Brahmin is terrified, cornered, and has to confess everything. He's dragged back to Ravidas, who just smiles, reaches into his humble leather-working pot, his Kathauti, and miraculously pulls out the identical bangle, proving his famous saying for everyone to see.
And his courage wasn't just the stuff of legend. It was tested by the highest political power around. We have accounts that say the Sultan, Sikandar Lodi, a very powerful and zealous ruler, heard about Guru Ravidas's growing influence. The stories say the Sultan summoned him and pressured him to convert to Islam, even threw him in prison to try and break his will. But Ravidas was unshakable. He believed in a universal God that didn't belong to any one religion, and he refused to bow to power. Just shows you the incredible conviction he had.
So Guru Ravidas's life was one of constant struggle, but his impact, it didn't end when he died, not even close. His defiant voice for equality and dignity has just echoed through the centuries, getting stronger and deeper over time.
Just look at this number, 41. That's the number of his sacred hymns, his poems, that were considered so spiritually profound that they were included in the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy book of Sikhism. I mean, that is a stunning testament to his universal appeal. The Sikh gurus, who also preached a message of equality, recognized Ravidas as a true saint whose wisdom went beyond any social or religious boundaries.
And his influence is so clear when you see who he inspired. He was a contemporary of the great mystical poet Kabir, and maybe most famously, he became the spiritual guru to Mirabai. Now think about that. Mirabai was a Rajput princess from the absolute highest level of the aristocracy. For her to publicly accept a man from an untouchable caste as her spiritual master, that was a revolutionary act that just shattered every social rule of the time.
This timeline really puts the incredible journey of his legacy into perspective. It starts in the 15th century with this local, revered saint. By the 17th century, his words are official scripture. Then you see this huge leap to the 20th century. As his followers migrated across the globe, they took his message with them, building temples from the UK to North America. And then finally, in the 21st century, his teachings became the foundation for a distinct global faith, the Ravidasya religion. Just amazing, from one man to a global movement.
So, after exploring his life, his radical philosophy, and this incredible enduring legacy, what are the core messages we can really take away from this 15th century revolutionary?
So let's boil it down. First, spiritual equality. It doesn't matter what family you're born into, your worth is your own. Second, the dignity of labor. All honest work is honorable, a form of devotion. Third, inner purity over ritual. True faith isn't about fancy ceremonies, it's about what's in your heart. Fourth, a vision for justice. His idea of Begampura is a timeless reminder that we should always be trying to build a better, more equal world. And finally, number 5, the courage of conviction. His life is just a masterclass in standing up for your beliefs no matter who you're facing.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. The struggles Guru Ravidas fought against, casteism, discrimination, social injustice, sadly, they haven't disappeared from our world. His life and his bold vision of Begampura forces us to ask a really tough question today. 6 centuries later, how much closer are we to actually building that city without sorrow, and what role can each of us play in making that just and equal world a reality?